Everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium. Thanks so much for tuning in today. As you can see on my screen, I hope you'll see Dabney Lawless, who's an amazing astrologer. She's been on my channel a few times. Listen, you guys, really and truly, I'm so excited because I want you to get a load of this. Listen to this. We're going to be talking about the Titanic. Okay, we are talking politics, to be honest with you. This whole video is about politics. And you're going to be amazed to figure out, once Dabney's done with this amazing information she's going to give us, you're going to be amazed to figure out that the Titanic has a little bit connection to Citizens United, which has a little bit connection to the eclipses. Now, that's a pretty big, I know, I'm always talking to you guys about connecting the dots. We're fixing to connect some dots right now, you guys, for real. So get comfy, get your blanket, whatever you got to do. If you're driving, pay attention to the road. Okay. Dabney, thank you so much for coming back on my channel. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's always nice to see you. So yeah, this is three very disparate topics. And so we talked about them being kind of in chapters. But with Susan and I were texting yesterday, I tend to follow what's happening in the news to kind of help me understand the planetary energies. Because I think that we can get clues, because I think our society at large is reflecting kind of our cosmic energy. So I was telling her just before we got on, if you've ever watched that show American Greed on CNBC, that show began when Pluto was entering Capricorn for the first time. And now, as Pluto is leaving Capricorn in a few months, it's going on hiatus, and they don't know if it's coming back. So I think there's something kind of interesting about that, where there's this, that whole, American Greed really sums up a lot of the things that we've been working through during this time. So I do think that the zeitgeist and what is coming across our news feed, if you pay attention, there's clues as to kind of the lessons that we're supposed to get. And so I opened my news yesterday and I saw that there is a lost statue of Diana, which is the goddess Artemis, who is the goddess of hunting, protector of women, and protector of childbirth. Okay, so this is a goddess that has to do with women. Very strong, she is the female hunter archetype. She is the warrior for women. And there is a statue that was long gone, buried with the Titanic when it sunk, that is just now being unveiled because of the decay of the Titanic. So we have Neptune at 29 degrees, which is the final degrees of Neptune in Pisces, which has everything to do with dissolving. And so the Titanic now back in the news because it's dissolving to the point where eventually there will be no Titanic. There will not be wreckage any longer. It is decaying. Right? And so this goddess statue that was in the first class foyer has not been seen since the Reagan years, when it just got covered over with ocean stuff. And, now it's being unveiled again. And it's almost like she is calling from the grave and has a message for us. So there's also, Titanic has been in the news because he who shall not be named used the theme to the Titanic at one of his rallies. And Celine Dion was like, first of all, you don't have permission. Second of all, you're literally using the Titanic theme. So make what you will of that. So I started getting into this thinking, this is really kind of interesting. And there is a billionaire, Susan, you're like, this is crazy. There's a billionaire in Australia who is creating a new Titanic, the Titanic 2, and it's being built as an exact replica that people can go on. Now, first of all, who would want to go on the Titanic 2? If you're not familiar with what happened with the Titanic, which who isn't at this point, but it's very clearly about pride and hubris and saying that it is unsinkable. And it had a lot to do with wealth inequality and the class structure of the time. It was during the Gilded Age, and we are in a new Gilded Age. And here is this billionaire saying, I want to build the Titanic. And the media is asking, well, why do you want to build the Titanic? And his exact quote was that it's more fun than sitting at home counting my money. He has also said that he is building this Titanic as an antidote to wokeness. So he's literally saying that it's about peace. He's saying he's putting it out in the world so we can have a more peaceful world, and it's an antidote to wokeness. So this is all just fascinating because there are no survivors of the Titanic. There's really no one alive at this point who lived through that, who was even born when the Titanic sunk. And so this kind of just is a really amazing symbol to me for this whole Project 2025 and the billionaire class. Slightly delusional, right? I mean, this billionaire, not only is he building a replica, he's building a steerage replica where people can come and have a steerage ticket and be fed like potatoes and mash. And Are
you for real?
I'm for real.
He's replicating the whole class structure.
He's replicating.
So like, I really want to be treated like crap. So I'm going to buy this ticket so I can get. Oh, I see.
And they're going to have communal tables where they like, it's just like in the movie.
I get it. Oh my God. Okay. Seriously. This is like rich people learning how the poor used to live. Like, are they going to have rich people amusement parks now where rich people go and get to experience what it's like to be discriminated against? Or, you know what I mean? Like, is this going to be a thing?
So this is kind of the like, Marie Antoinette let them eat cake, which I guess is historically not accurate, but the feeling of, you know, let them eat cake if they can't afford bread. And so this kind of like they've lost their mind, like they've lost their damn minds is what I would say. And it's become like this cartoony villain level of, you know, really it doesn't make any sense. So it's like corrupt, you know, the thing about absolute corruption corrupts absolutely is what we're seeing on steroids right now, because the billionaire class and the wealthy, much like during the Gilded Age, have been given this kind of free pass to control everything. And that's where we're going to get into the Citizens United piece. But I did want to talk really briefly about when I looked at the chart of the Titanic, and I wanted to see if there was any resonance with what's happening today. And the nodes, and so I'm an evolutionary astrologer, and I won't bore everyone with like, you know, super detailed evolutionary astrologer gunk. But what I will say is the nodes of the moon are what we're working on from an evolutionary standpoint. And for when the Titanic sunk, it's in the same area that it is today. So the North Node is in Aries now, and the South Node is in Libra. And what is that lesson that we're supposed to be learning when the North Node is in Aries and the South Node is in Libra? And it has everything to do with finding your inner warrior and standing up for what you believe in. Libra South Node. So we look at just Libra's out there. Don't think I'm criticizing you, okay? Just for when you look at the South Node, you look at the darker aspects, the more negative side of a sign. And so the karma that we're coming from, that we're trying to release, has to do with inaction, caring too much about appearances and money and what other people think about us. It's very superficial on a lot of levels. And it really can be manipulative too. And it's really all about appearances. And there's a degree of indecisiveness. And if you look at what's happening with the Republican Party, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger have both called them out for their tremendous cowardice, that they'll come behind the scenes and say, I want to stand up. I hate this guy. I'm not going to vote for him, but I can't impeach him because then I'll lose my district. That is some dark Libra. That's like, I need to manipulate people to get my way because my integrity and my beliefs are not what matter. It's what people think of me that matters. Also, on the Democrat side, there's a degree of inaction, like kind of like waffling, not, like I'll pen a very stern letter, right? Like the things that we've like been experiencing where it's like, oh my God, get off the stick. And that's why I think Kamala is like, people are embracing her because she's bringing that warrior energy. And so back at, when the Titanic sunk, there were a lot of people that knew that it was sinkable. And so this is fascinating to me. There was apparently 20 warnings to the captain that there were icebergs that he had to navigate. And he thought, it's unsinkable. I'm not worried about it. He ignored 20 warnings for icebergs. Now, does that not remind you of so many of us running around as whistleblowers telling the media, pay attention, our democracy is at stake. Pay attention, other people that vote differently than we do, we're telling them that this is sinkable. You have to pay attention. And there is this, kind of like waffling, like, hubris, like, oh, it's fine. It'll be fine. Our democracy is unsinkable. So there's this kind of like tie to today where I just think when, you think about the sub that went down full of billionaires that sank and exploded because they wanted to go gawk at the Titanic and kind of be with their, and so it's interesting how many things about the Titanic have been in the news in the past year. So that was kind of something that I think more than anything, less about the astrology and more about a metaphor that we all need to recognize. You can't have such class divides. You can't have another Gilded Age without the billionaires going Looney Tunes and thinking they can build a second Titanic, including steerage.
Including steerage. And you know what? Two things. That sub that they sent down, people warned that sub was also sinkable, that it would use this type of metal that was not really rated for that sort of low or very deep kind of exploration. And then number two, just kind of jumped out at me that isn't Kamala Harris a Libra?
I believe so. Yes.
So double check, because
double checking. Yes, she is. Kamala is a Libra with an Aries moon. So
how interesting, right? That she's here to show us this is how you do the higher Libra. I'm going to teach you how I'm a Libra. I get it. Like I get the dark and the high, and I'm here because I am a Libra. I'm going to teach you how to go to the higher levels. And look, again, for you Libras out there, Virgos are particularly known for our dark side. Okay, like
we all have it.
Right. So we all have it.
So just looking at the nodes, and also the North Node where we want to go is courage, standing up for our belief systems. Really,
God, that blows my mind.
Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting. It's like how many people could have been saved if people, were like, no, we have to have enough lifeboats. There are not enough lifeboats. And know that this isn't right that you have people and you're locking them in steerage when the boat is sinking because you want to get the wealthy on the lifeboats that you do have. So these kind of lessons of hubris are kind of coming back into play. So how does this tie into Citizens United? Okay. So
wait.
Well, it's sort of I think that we're all getting a glimpse right now of an ending. Okay. So all of this has to do with ending energy. And so Citizens United, for those who are not familiar, my friend asked me, I had some people over to the pool this weekend, and she's like, how did it get so bad? Like, how did our country get so bad? And she doesn't follow politics the same way that like Susan and I do, right? And she's like, I just don't understand. And I said the number one thing was Citizens United, because that is a Supreme Court case that was decided in 2010. And you can see a clear demarcation in our politics at 2010, where suddenly corporations were classified as people, and corporate entities can pour as much money as they want into campaigns through what's called a super PAC. Okay, so you know how you get like 1 million texts that ask you for money? A lot of times that's a super PAC. It's a PAC, PAC, not the campaign. Now, sometimes a campaign will ask you for money, but a lot of times it's what's called a PAC. And so they don't need to report who is putting the money in. So Elon Musk is not giving $25 million a month to Donald Trump's campaign. He's giving $25 a month to a super PAC. And the super PAC can do whatever it wants with that. It can use that money to lobby other politicians. It can use it to get Trump elected. It can use it for whatever means it wants to corrupt our political system. And here, suddenly we had the Tea Party. Suddenly we had all sorts of lies going on that allowed gerrymandering to take place in the individual states on the state level as well. So the will of the people was no longer being done. It allowed the billionaires to rob the will of the people and to have a megaphone to spew lies that no longer were reflective of the actual policies of the politicians, because they just had this giant megaphone of money. So that means the rich people have that much more of a say in our politics than they had before. So I looked at the chart for Citizens United because it just got me thinking, like, what if we never had this? Like, this has been just a big turning point where corruption has been on steroids. I mean, look at Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, right? Like, yeah. we would have had the Voting Rights Act protected. We would have had, bodily autonomy protected, but we couldn't because we had 2 Democrats that were on the take, right? Because of Citizens United. All right, we don't hear much about this because it's a complicated topic. And also the media loves Citizens United because it means more ad dollars in their bank. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Okay, I looked at the chart of Citizens United. I won't get into everything other than to say it's a very powerful chart. Like, if the Supreme Court has an astrologer on their team, good job for, picking something that is, very indestructible. Like, this is a strong chart. But it also is a chart. It has Saturn square Pluto, which can cause stubbornness, remarkable resilience, ruthless determination to succeed. The greatest obstacle to success is stubbornness, okay? So this is a very stubborn law that was created by the Supreme Court. It is not going to be easy to completely wipe it off the books or dismantle it, because you're basically going up the most powerful elite people in the world who backed this. Another thing that it's minority belief based on an extreme interpretation, okay? It can influence your ethics and morals because you are so stubborn, you can't see another point of view. It's very conservative, so it makes it very challenging to evolve, okay? So this is kind of the energy of this law with this Saturn square Pluto. Now, I've talked a lot about Pluto on Susan's channel in the past, and as an evolutionary astrologer, Pluto is an important planet to me. And I think that whenever we have a Pluto transit in our own personal lives or in the life of an event or a country, because countries and events have their own charts, and that's what I was looking at. So what's happening with this chart to me is the sun is in Aquarius at 1 degree Aquarius for Citizens United. What's happening next year, starting in November, is Pluto's going into Aquarius. When Pluto hits the sun, it completely dismantles it. And it says, this is not working. And anything that is not working, you are going to feel the repercussions of that energy. You are going to have to make a change, or a change will be made for you. So what I do see is there is a possibility over the next 3 years, 2025, 2026, 2027, where Pluto is going back and forth over the Citizens United chart, Sun and Venus in Aquarius in the early degrees, and it's right on the midheaven, by the way, which means it's like, this is really powerful stuff. Like I said, this is a powerful, powerful chart. Pluto's going to be coming and saying, where is this not working and how do we fix this? So I think there's an opportunity over the next 3 years to dismantle Citizens United, which has not been, and I think that's the window, to be honest with you. I think if we don't fix it in the next couple of years, it may be here to stay. But I do believe Pluto is going to take it down to its studs. So that's my prediction for Citizens United.
Wow, nice. So I have a question. So Pluto's going in Aquarius. Who is Pluto in Capricorn right now? Who's in Capricorn?
Pluto is in Capricorn right now.
Okay, so I thought, so Pluto went into Capricorn back again, so it's in now. And then doesn't Pluto go into Aquarius right after the election this year?
Right after, yes, like November 9th.
This year. 20th. Okay, I thought you said next year, but you meant you probably said this year.
Well, the thing is, like, Pluto's going to go back into Aquarius on November 20th, kind of toward the end of the year. And then it's going to be there for 30 years.
For 30 years, right?
It's going to be there for a really long time. We're only going to have, but I'm just thinking there's going to be a window of opportunity where we can maybe make some reforms around all the money and all the dark money that is being put into politics. So if we were to win the House and the Senate and the presidency, we could start to put some guardrails in place so it's just not this out of control, the wealthiest can win whatever they want and influence policies that detrimentally impact our lives.
Right. And I think we will. I really, and I think this is what I mean when I say sometimes spirit puts their size 12 shoe on the scale of justice, right? Like we have a little extra help here. We have Pluto and Saturn. We have that synastry going on to sort of in the midheaven and shine a light on this. And then you add that to the whole Titanic energy and to the Citizens United energy, which is this energy of the Gilded Age, as you said. And I think Pluto in Aquarius is anything but the Gilded Age, right? I think it's the opposite of the Gilded Age. So we have all this help coming, even though that's a very stout ruling that happened through the Supreme Court. We have a lot of help coming from the heavens.
That's right. That's exactly the point I wanted to make, was there's kind of like a beckoning from the grave from Titanic with this statue of Diana being revealed for the first time since the Reagan years. And she is the protector of women and childbirth. And so when you know that, she is being unveiled. I saw a beautiful picture of it. She's calling us and telling us, don't make the same mistakes. Women, get out there. We need to put an end to this Gilded Age. And I think the way that we do that is through dismantling Citizens United. And the only way we're going to get there is by voting in Democrats in this next election. So it's like there's a lot of high potential if we get this right. And I think we will get it right. I mean, I think we are getting it right. But we're up against some pretty powerful forces, like the most wealthy people in the whole world. The wealth inequality has just exploded. So this kind of segues into the September 17th eclipse.
Okay, lay it on me, because I'm a little worried about it. I don't know why.
Okay, well, I don't think you should be. I mean,
good, thank you.
Okay, so let me pull up
What's the Pisces thing? It's something about the Pisces. Like, I don't want to be all in that watery emotion. I don't want that. I'm a Capricorn moon, right? I don't have time for emotion. Just give me something to do. I'll work through it.
Okay, well, so let's talk about this eclipse. So when we have an eclipse, and when the eclipse scene isn't upon us, we are actually today, when we're filming this, in the eclipse shadow. So we're already like warming up into this energy. The actual eclipse is on the 17th, and eclipses are incredibly unpredictable. So if I was to come on here and tell you exactly what's going to happen for this eclipse, I would be lying, because eclipses are unpredictable. The last batch of eclipses that we had, Hamas went into Israel and kidnapped and killed a lot of people. Now, that was not on anyone's radar, right? Like, if you were to predict what was going to happen that day, it wouldn't necessarily be that. right? So we don't know. There probably is some resonance with what's going on in the Middle East. So we may see an acceleration. Eclipses bring shocking news. Eclipses bring a change in direction. Eclipses bring something that is for our greater good sometimes that we have to flow with. I'm not saying the Hamas thing is for anyone's greater good. So that's more on an individual level, how you can work with the energy, okay? So individually, you're poised for a breakthrough, but it may not be apparent immediately. So this particular eclipse is in the sign of Pisces, and it's conjunct Neptune. So that is, like Susan said, very watery, not necessarily very clear. It's also conjunct Aries in the North Node. Okay, so I'm going to tell a story that will hopefully sort of illustrate what this energy is about, okay? So I was recently up in Washington State, and we were doing like a visit of all the national parks, and they're beautiful up there. But unfortunately, on the day that we were going to Mount Rainier, it was pouring rain. And Mount Rainier is apparently somewhat notoriously difficult to see anyway, because the weather can be kind of inclement in that area. But we were there in August. It was unheard of to have rain in August in Washington. And there was this giant mountain, and I couldn't see it. I couldn't see one little bit of it because it was encased in fog. So I was literally standing right in front of the mountain, like this giant, beautiful mountain, and I couldn't see any of it. It was just fog. I might as well have been like staring at, my kitchen. There was nothing there. So what I want to say is that mountain was there. I was in the presence of that mountain. That mountain was doing its work on me. There was majesty taking place. I just couldn't see it because it was foggy. So if I went back 2 days later, probably would have been this gorgeous, clear, beautiful day with flowers and everything. I still appreciated that mountain, but I had to just know it was there. And so that's a big part of this eclipse, is just having faith. You're being called to tap into your emotions, tap into your intuition, tap into your trust, and know that big changes are happening. Big things are there. We just don't fully understand them yet. So that's the energy of this eclipse, and how you can work on it in your personal life is recognizing that this might be shaky ground and troubled times. But if you have faith and you breathe and you meditate and you do all your self-care practices, the changes will be taking place. This is a time where we can get a glimpse of the future because it's the North Node in Aries conjunct. So this means there's something about this eclipse that is incredibly fated. There is a hand of God or a hand of spirit, whatever you believe in, there is some sort of fate at work. So it was very cold that day, so we didn't walk up the path. But if you walk up the path, I bet I could have started to see a little bit of the mountain. We were just really cold, so we got back in the car. But what I want you to do is I want you to walk up the path consciously, because then you can start to make out the mountain more clearly. That is what this is about. It is, Pisces is beauty and art, but it's also delusion and fog, and you don't know where you're going. But the sun is in Virgo, grounding it, saying, let's be grounded. Let's figure out how we're going to get through the next few months when things start to flip over, because changes are coming for everybody, including our country. And that is why, he who shall not be named represents the old guard. And that is why I'm very convinced that the new guard of Kamala Harris is going to usher in these new changes. In our own individual lives, every reading I've been doing lately, people are at a crossroads, people want to move, they are trying to reinvent themselves in some way. They want a new life. They're being called into a new life. We are in the cleanup phase of things. So there is 3 outer planets during this eclipse, actually during all of September, that are making a trine, a minor grand trine. So which is rare. This doesn't happen a lot in our lifetime. A lot of these things that are happening are not super common. So Susan, any questions so far? Am I going off on like left field? Am I losing people?
No, not at all. Like I'm on the edge of my seat. Like I would just say, I got a flash about Virgo. Virgo is also about self-care or caring or medical or health.
Service,
So
yeah.
I think that that's a thing that you're trying to say is self-care is going to be important during this time. You may feel foggy. You may feel like I wish I could see better. Like you're saying too, you might be in a crossroads and you're like, God, I wish I just knew where to go. This might not be the time that you get that clarity, that you get that, zing, I get it. So I think this is a really good time for this video because it's going to help people understand this is a time where you kind of just take care of yourself. Like the guides are showing me, if you're cold, you put on a coat, right? If you're hot, you take off the sweater, right? Like you pay attention to how am I doing? And then I kind of feel like maybe that's what you're going to talk about with this trine, which is usually good. I think we're going to kind of ease. I really feel like it's a big hump that we just kind of like a wave where you kind of ride over it gently and then you just ease in. That's what I feel like this energy is going to be. I don't feel like we're going to be thrown off of anything or we're going to be in a roller coaster. I feel like it's like a whoo, I'm a little uncomfortable. Okay. Oof. That's kind of what it feels like to me. So go ahead and please tell us about the Grand Trine.
Yeah, so I think if we look at kind of the big picture of this, we've got Neptune at 28 degrees on this date. We have got Uranus at 27 degrees of Taurus, and then we have Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn. Anytime you have, and those are the three big outer planets, they're very slow moving, okay? And they also impact us collectively. So it impacts you on a personal level, but that's kind of different. This is the collective. So these three planets are all in the very final degrees of their signs that we've been living with Capricorn and Pluto since 2008, and Neptune in Pisces since 2011, and Uranus in Taurus since 2018. It's all been a stew and things that we've been working on that we've had to clean up. We are in the final phase. There are only 30 degrees, and these planets are at 28, 27, and 29. And they're making a trine, which is a harmonious aspect. So what they're saying is this is the final pass. This is the time to get things right as we enter into a new energy in 2025. So during this eclipse, there's going to be help. So to your point, because this is a full moon eclipse in Pisces, there is going to be a light shining on health issues. So take care of your health around this time. That's important. But also know that it is conjunct the North Node in Aries. And so we were already just talking about what happened with the Titanic, the North Node in Aries, the things that we want to move toward. We want to move toward our own inner warrior. We want to be strong. We don't want to be a victim. We want, we're not going to cry that things are unfair. So at the same time as this North Node is in the eclipse, and I'm so sorry because I know this is complicated, but I promise I'm going to break it all down what it means. It is also squaring Mars in Cancer. Mars just went into Cancer. It's going to be there for several months. What that means is emotional regulation. Don't give in to your inner toddler. Don't give in to, victim, like feeling like, oh, it's not fair. Like a little kid who tantrums that needs their mom and dad to take care of them. We have to take care of ourselves. This is a time where we have to find our inner strength. And we cannot complain and we cannot whine. We have to have and we cannot panic either. Like, don't panic. Emotional regulation is what we're being called to do, to step into our warrior energy, stand up for what we believe in. And this is going to happen with the support of the outer planets. So good things that you can do in your personal life is, go to the doctor, take care of your health.
Oh, doctor. You said doctor, I said chocolate. Go ahead, doctor, chocolate. You can eat chocolate on the way to the doctors. They don't know. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. If listening to Susan calms you and calms your nerves, go ahead and do that, right? do whatever you have to do to step into your faith and intuition and let go. No, turn off the news. This isn't like watch the news and get anxious time. This is a time for going deeper than that. Like I said, if I had gone up the path and I had taken a hike a little bit further, I probably could have seen the mountain. Go take a hike. See the mountain, get a glimpse of where you're going, work through that energy, because the fog is gonna clear next year. We're still in the fog, but we have to let go and have trust.
Well, I have a question because I'm trying to wrap my head around Mars and Cancer. So if you had 2 action words for Mars, what would they be?
Assertive, not aggressive, assertive, and
Nice.
warrior.
Yeah. Okay. Assertive warrior. Okay, great. I like that instead of aggressive because sometimes I think of Mars, I think of aggression. I think
Okay,
of
assertive
anger.
and courage. Those are the 2 words. I'm correcting myself. Assertive
That's
and
fine.
courage.
So
Yeah.
that's the higher. Do you guys, I don't know if you guys saw what she just did, but like, so Mars could also be like a rageaholic, right? I mean, so she went to the higher octaves. That's what we're trying to do here, right? You might have that, and she mentioned it. Don't have a temper tantrum. Don't be a, that's the lower octaves of that Mars energy. Mars can also be very action oriented, I think, a quick energy. And then what are some words around Cancer?
Cancer is loving, protective, nurturing. It's
Okay.
also, there's a lot of actual maturity, like it's emotional maturity on the high side. It's being in touch with your emotions, understanding them. So the really positive response is being protective. And Cancer, it rules patriotism too. So here we have like, let's be in our healthy boundaries and be courageous and assertive about protecting our country.
Let's be joyful warriors.
Joyful warriors.
Just like Kamala says, right? So so you guys understand, right? I just want you to really be able to use that because especially if you have Cancer in your chart, I think it probably magnifies that. But you might find that you might find around this time there's a shadow period. So it's not just that date. It overlaps, okay? But you might find that if somebody challenges your kid at school or your grandkid comes home with a problem, that Mars energy might, especially with the Cancer, might make you be mama bear, papa bear. So what you want to do is you want to remember what Dabney and Susan said and take some breaths and ask more questions. Well, what really happened? And maybe get some more information. So this month, I just would be careful about flying off the handle in general about anything, but specifically things to do with Cancer, home, your family, patriotism, those kinds of things. That's what I would add to that. And I have one more question because the 3 planets. So, because I like the way you do go the higher octave, but I'm like down here like that shit gonna blow up. That what she's talking about right now gonna blow up. And she ain't even saying it's gonna blow up, but that planet blows shit up. So I'm over here. I want to know what planet is gonna blow this shit up because did you say Uranus? Is that what you said? And
there's
you said
Uranus,
Pluto. You said
Pluto,
Pluto and Uranus. And then, woo! And then what was the other one? Was it Neptune? Neptune is like photography, but it's also like, look at that mirror making my shape look all crazy. Wow, that's cool. So we're not seeing nothing clearly. And then Uranus and Pluto are like, the bad kids on the block lighting up stuff in the alley and blowing shit up. So anyway, that's my opinion. That's how I would break this down. If I was doing astrology, that's what I would tell you. But that's why I have people like Dabney on to tell you in a calmer way what really is going to happen. So, I mean, really and truly, like Pluto and Uranus, like, how is that not going to blow up stuff that we're not going to be paying no attention to?
Okay, well, I didn't say that it was going to be easy. I said I never said that. I did
You
say
did it.
that it's a dismantling. It
You
is a
did.
kind of, Pluto, it's a cleaning up. So in the higher octave, in our personal lives, what we can do is look at where we want to make changes in our lives. What has this time been building towards? I can't tell you how many readings I have where people are really, they want to write a book. They want to move. They want to start a family. That, like
Nice.
everybody's done.
Moving.
But
Okay, good.
the new thing hasn't started and they don't know what to do. And so they're coming to me and saying, how do I do this? Right? I mean, sometimes my readings have become more coaching sessions than actual astrology because you need to get through this cleaning up period. So when there's a cleaning up period, so think about you're cleaning up a mess. A mess has been.
Well, we are too.
And so now we are cleaning the mess before we can then. So here's an example, okay? I love little stories. My mother has dementia.
Oh.
And she's been sick for months and months and months. And I've been taking care of her, but it's a little overwhelming because I work, blah, blah, blah. Okay. She has really neglected to keep her place up because she's been so sick. I had to go yesterday and spend 5 hours cleaning her apartment.
Wow.
Now, the reason I did that is because it's a similar energy. I know she's coming back from the hospital soon. I want her to be in a clean place, but I also they needed to do a deep clean because she's had infections and things like that. I had to pick up all of the junk and the papers and break down the boxes and so I had to clean up so we could have the deep clean done.
You had to pre-clean even. You had to pre-clean.
Right. I had to organize. I had to hang up her clothes, right?
Wow.
So that's a good analogy for this time, which is you got to clean up the mess before the deep clean. And so the mess in our government is pretty obvious to those of us that watch this channel. Okay. So there is a dismantling taking place, and Pluto is the government, as I've talked about before. So we're starting to see, the orange man fall apart. In ways that we've never seen before. I mean, if you follow, what they talk about on his True Social, it's oh my God, it's not being reported in the media, but his mind, he's losing his mind. There is a light being shined on how bad things have gotten. And so Neptune in 28 degrees of Pisces or 29 degrees of Pisces, I did a whole video about this, is we have to surrender and we have to accept the way things are, but we also have to be conscious and step into a new vibration. I just talked about a billionaire that is so delusional that he thinks that people want to buy steerage class tickets on the Titanic too. That is delusion. That is Pisces. Elon, whatever his face. I don't want to say his name because I feel I don't like the energy of these people.
I know.
Seeing him unraveling, his companies, this legacy he built for himself, and the gig is up in a lot of ways. They're losing control. And so the high side, and then Uranus and Taurus has a lot to do with climate change and our Earth and protecting our. And so all three of these planets, is there lessons to be learned and cleanup to be done? Yeah. So if we get this wrong collectively, boy, are we in trouble, right? I don't think that's what's going to happen. But let's say I didn't go to my mom's house and pick up, her apartment and pick up so there could be a deep clean. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
That's right.
Until eventually the health department is called or whatever, right? Do you see what I'm saying? It's it gets so bad that you then have the French Revolution.
The warnings on the Titanic. Hey, there's icebergs. Hey, there's every ship. These were ships saying we're reporting icebergs. And no, that you're right. You're right. So pay attention to the warnings. Pay attention to your body. Understand you can't see the mountain right now, but it is there. You go running, you're going to smack right into it.
Yep. And Saturn is, within range. It's a wide conjunction, but Saturn's even there too in Pisces. So we don't want to do hard work right now. So it's easy to like just not do it and get like feel victimy. I'm getting a lot of people that like feel like, well, I don't know what to do next. Like they're just confused, right? Like I don't know what to do. Meditate, figure it out. That's the fated quality. That's the North Node in Aries. You don't have the luxury of not figuring it out, because next year things are going to accelerate to things are just going to like go so fast next year.
I swear.
It's a totally different energy.
Yes.
And we want you to be prepared for that. So you want to be clean. You want to clean out the baggage. What if you had to work on since, the late 2000s, right? Like, what are the things in your life over the past 9, 10, 12 years that have been building up that are no longer serving you, and you're ready for a change? Because the change is coming anyway. The mountain is there. You just may not be able to see it clearly because of the fog.
I love it. That's perfect. That is so helpful. And I would just add, take a step. If you don't know what to do, the main thing to do is take a step, because my spirit guides are always like, if you take a step, we can guide you. If you're stuck not doing anything, we can't, there's no energy. There's nothing being done. Take a class, go out and meet a group, do something different in your life, like just go a different route. I've talked about this a million times, how you get out of being stuck. But once you make that little step, I'm not saying take a big step right now, because obviously things are still shrouded like the mountain, but you can take little steps. You can join a group online. You can take a little class, an inexpensive class, a free class, an introductory class. Once you take a step, the energy can react to you. If you take a step and it's the wrong step, you're going to get that feedback and you're going to be like, oh, that was the wrong step. Then you go the other direction. It's not like, oh, I did the wrong thing, I'm never going to do anything again. That's not really going to work. I totally agree with you. Next year, the energy is like, it's like Red Bull. It should be sponsored by Red Bull. And I've never even drank a Red Bull in my entire life. But though 2025 should be sponsored by Red Bull, because that's what it feels like. It feels like you are on the launch pad, and the launch pad is slowly aligning to the launch site. And once it's launched, you're going to just be shot out, whether you're ready or not. Right. So
yeah. And the nodes are going to change sign in January. So we're going to be all collectively be working on something different than we're currently working on. One of my teachers like talks about how we're all going to get kind of like a 12-year reset, like during this time. Nice. Like there's just a nice reset period. And I want you to be poised to take advantage of that. I think that, as you call him, 45, is going to struggle during this time, because he has
Which time? Be very specific. I want to know all about the struggle.
Well, all during this election season.
Okay, during this election season.
Mars squaring Uranus. So, but this is active because this Mars is very important during this eclipse, okay? Because the eclipse is right next to the moon, the full moon, and it's squaring that Cancer Mars. Well, his natal Uranus, okay? I'm going to break it down, don't worry. His natal Uranus is also squaring that Mars, Uranus up in the sky is squaring his natal Mars. So there's some resonance there. And what this means is this guy has no self-control right now. We already know this about him. We've seen that, but it's like on steroids. So he's got no self-control, no self-regulation. And we're all being called to regulate our emotions. But he can't control himself. So it can cause impulsiveness and, a craving of excitement and recklessness and a urge to break free from authority. And, there's an erratic energy that really cannot be contained that he's dealing with. So when we've seen that, he just went on and did a news conference where he criticized E. Jean Carroll again. And then he criticized his lawyers in front of them just to humiliate them, right? Because this is like, I know better. Like no one's the last election at the very end, they modulated him. They got him under control. There is no getting him under control this time. He is like, and Jupiter, I've talked about Jupiter being lucky for him. Well, he is lucky. There was an assassination attempt and he survived. Luck comes in a lot of different packages. And, Jupiter magnifies things. Jupiter is making him a bigger version of himself, and people are seeing it.
It's magnifying his flaws. It's magnifying his flaws as well as whatever luck that he has.
Right. So there is, again, the high and the low response. And when have we ever seen him take a high response?
Never.
So he may have some fated protection around him, but that doesn't mean that it's all good. That I used the example of the alcoholic that runs out of money, but then finds, a briefcase full of money and thinks it's the luckiest day of their life. And they go to the bar and they drink themselves to death.
Right.
Lucky day. Your lucky day. Right. So if you're already toxic, Jupiter just magnifies that toxicity. So that's what we've got going on with him, is he's really unrestrained through the rest of this period. So Kamala, on the other hand, has a lot of Saturn going on in her chart. A lot of Saturn.
Me too.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of hard work. So if you get a Saturn transit right, you reap amazing rewards. If you get a Saturn transit wrong, you get depressed. And you kind of give up and you don't get the accomplishments under your belt that you deserve. So she is being called, it's like she is being held to a much higher standard than he is. This, it's going to continue. It's going to continue that the standards that she's being held to are so much higher, but she's doing the work. She's prepared. And what happens is at the end, she gets a bigger reward.
Okay.
So there's a lot of work for her right now, but I believe that fate will determine the outcome. We all need patience, endurance, strength, spirit. This is all her stuff. You may have Saturn going on in your personal charts. But again, when I'm on Susan's channel, I try to talk about the politics and the collective energy. But I always say that Saturn is the really hard teacher that gives you so much homework. But if you study really hard and you ace the test, then you get into an awesome college,
Nice.
And Jupiter, on the other hand, if you get Jupiter wrong, you can end up in jail, right?
Or you OD. You OD.
OD.
But I swear there's energy around 45 for that.
Yeah, so there is something very erratic going on in his chart. It's very magnified. I think if I've seen higher responses from him in the past, I could look at the higher responses, but I just haven't seen it in 9 years. So what, I'm not gonna sanity wash things like they say in the Midas touch. It's insane. Let's call it what it is. So she's going to continue to be held to a higher standard. He's not going to do his homework, but it's going to show.
He's going to pay for it. He's going to magnify. It's almost like he just has no leash. He can just run it out and run off the cliff. You know what I mean? Nobody's there. There's no guardrails. There's no nothing.
Right.
And he cannot police himself. He cannot take care of himself. So he'll go to the biggest extreme that he can go to, right? And I think that's dovetails. I don't think we're going to get out of any lessons here. I wish I could tell you otherwise, but it dovetails with the whole thing that Dabney's been talking about with the billionaires building this Titanic. It's unsinkable. All the warnings, no, we don't have to worry about it. All the warnings of the democracy. Citizens United bought our courts. Maybe we should pay attention. No, democracy is unsinkable. Now we end up with, I'm going to say it without being triggered, with Liz and Adam coming over to the Democrats saying, guess what? Democracy can be vulnerable. And we even though we disagree with you on all these things, we agree that we want a democracy, that we want our republic to be run by a democracy. We really want that. So that's kind of like, in some ways, that's really the 911 call, is when Liz and Adam and her dad comes into the Democratic Party. That's the 911 call saying, we're crazy, diabolically different than you, but we're going to get on this bandwagon because democracy is important to us. So I think that our lesson, as we let, not we, but as 45 runs wild and amok, the emperor with no clothes, our lesson is, hey, that guy's got no clothes on, or hey, that guy's breaking the law, or hey, that guy just told a state secret on the stage of the debate. These are things that we've got to wake up. But the problem is that we're surrounded by this fog. The mountain might be 45 and we can't see the reality of that situation, right? So we've got these things that we're working with that are kind of making it harder for us. But despite that, we still have to do the work. We still have to continue to say, this guy's not wearing any clothes. We have to call him out. And that's why we have Kamala Harris, who is perfect, right? We have this Libran who's here to say, this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it. I'm the fated. She is fated, right? She really is fated. I've always seen that. So I think the movie ends well, you guys. In my opinion, it just depends on how far we make it. Do we give Kamala Harris an overwhelming majority in Congress so that she can really get the things done? Or do we give her a meager, very, just a very meager, anemic majority that she has to fight every day like Biden did to get any little thing done? To me, that's what's at stake. That's where we are in this situation.
Yep, I would agree. And she has a moon in Aries, so she's here to show us the way. She's here to show us the way.
Right, which is the whole Libra Aries thing that you talked about earlier. She's got all the tools. She's exactly appointed to lead us at this time because she's got this astrological tools that we need. So it's going to be okay, everybody. The thing is, take really good care of yourself. This Cancer and Mars, the whole eclipse. I just want you and think about being shrouded a little bit in confusion. Take really good care of yourself. If you will go inside and just take care of yourself, you'll be shown the way. Like sometimes really focus on out the external, but when you maybe I need a nap, maybe I need to drink more water, maybe I need more of this type of food that I'm craving, and it's probably not chocolate, I'm just saying, but anyway, it could be possibly, but really the guides were showing me kind of fruits and vegetables. But anyway, if you do that, you're going to come out of this better prepared for that energy that Dabney's talking about in 25, where basically we're going to be shot out of a cannon. It's going to be fun. We're going to be like, woo! We're not necessarily going to know where we're going in some ways, but it's action, it's movement, it's forward movement. You have been notified. It's September. You've got between September and December to start some healthy habits, to start taking care of yourself better. If you'll do that, when you get that energy in January and February, you'll be just zipping along. You'll feel better. Your health will be better. Everything will be better.
That's right.
What do you think?
I think make a plan, and like you said, it's like this, make a plan and meditate and walk down the path, sit by the ocean, listen to classical music, pet your pet, get in touch with your authentic self, get in touch with your higher spiritual self, and doors will open. Listen to Susan's Wisdom on Wednesdays. That's a great way to, open your mind so you can get yourself ready for next year. And the eclipse season is, there might be some shocking news. But I think that we collectively can be okay. Let's just be in the higher response.
We will be okay. We've been through shocking news. If you look at your life, you've been through shock and awe many times. You have the resources. You know how to get through it. And take the break. Just be like, that's too much for me to deal with today. Turn the news off. That's perfectly fine. Go outside, bond with nature, go do a hobby. Those are coping mechanisms. That's important to have those. Absolutely.
And maybe we might even see a ceasefire. And
it could be good shocking.
Right, exactly. Like this could be part of that eclipse, like sometimes these eclipses tie in with one another. So there could be some
Oh,
news
it
around
could
it
fix it. It
inspired
could be the
closure, because
closure.
Neptune
That's what.
has a lot to do with closures, and the North Node in Aries is about moving forward into the next chapter. So again, I can't predict exactly what's going to happen, but these are the themes that we're all going to be working with.
It's amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on my channel, Dabney. I can't tell you how much I really enjoyed this whole talk with you. It was super helpful and informative and interesting. And for those of you watching, you can check out Dabney at
Lawless.
lawlessastrology.com. You guys, I'll have all her information in the description down below. And she does readings, obviously. And you saw, right? You saw her say that you take the astrology and that's sort of the energy, that's kind of what's happening, that might be the speed limit on the road that you're doing or the twists and turns, but then she helps you normalize it and like understand it through this sort of coaching teaching way that she has. The thing that I like about Dabney is that some astrologers just give you, yeah, guess what, you're going to be going through a lot of hairpin turns, you're probably going to need to go slow next. And Dabney's like, I think you should probably check your tires. I think you should get some rest before you take off. And I think you should know that there's going to be a rest area at the end of this. That's just helpful, right? That's more helpful to me than the nuts and bolts of your Mars and your Venus, and none of that makes any sense to me. She puts it to you in very easy to understand terms. That's helpful. So she also has a YouTube channel, as she mentioned. I hope you guys all please go over and subscribe, because this stuff is this is popping, right? The next 3 months is going to be literally like hairpin turns, and this is information that you can use to help navigate that, not only for your personal life, but also for the politics, right? So she covers all of that. So please check out her YouTube channel, check out her website, Lawless Astrology, to get your own reading. She probably has a few openings for a little bit, because I know that she gets booked up very quickly. And the holidays are coming and we're all going to be busy. So if you're thinking, I need to know what's going on in 2025, now's a good time to go ahead and get with Dabney so that you can get a plan together. Like she said, make a plan, right? Make a plan. Thank you so much, Dabney. I really appreciate this.
Thank you so much. You are a doll, Susan. Everyone loves you for a reason.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. You guys take really, really good care of yourselves. We'll see you again real soon. Okay, everybody? For entertainment purposes only.